It's just gone final. The Tar Heels defeat their bitter rival, the Duke Blue Devils, 93-84. And it wasn't R.J. Davis carrying this squad as we've seen recently, well, all season, right? Armando Bacot, 25 points, 10 boards, 93-84. Harrison Ingram also put up a double-double. He was lethal from three. Freshman Jared McCain led the way for the Blue Devils, 23 points, 11 boards. But who you don't see on there is Tyrese Proctor. He was not effective in this game for the Duke Blue Devils as they lose 93-84. We're back here with CBS Sports college basketball writer and host of the Eye on the College Basketball podcast, Matt Norlander. And Matt, on your Friday preview show with Gary Parrish, you stated that Armando Bacot would be the most important player for UNC. And in this game, he dominated everywhere he went, man.
He did, and but I want to be clear. I appreciate that. I also said Duke would cover. I said UNC would win, so I got only half right there. He was huge. I thought in this kind of game, with Bacot being the guy that he is, the Carolina legend that he is, he continues to move up the rankings. In this game, he passed Michael Jordan for getting even higher in the all-time UNC list in game scoring against Duke. I thought he had to play big here. I thought Duke would key in on R.J. Davis. That wound up being the case. He just took it upon himself. I mean, 25 points on 10 of 13 shooting. Had to have, I said this on the pod too, had to have a double-double. He did, 25 and 10 in 36 minutes. I'll tell you what, in this neighborhood, this kind of game in this season, this is going to be one that he's remembered for almost as much as anything non-tied to, you know, making the Final Four and ending Coach K's career and being on that team. You have him, and then you have Harrison Ingram, 8 of 12 from the field, 13 rebounds. Ingram came out just ready to play. This was an incredible, incredible game. Harrison Ingram started his career at Stanford. Once upon a when, projected as a top 20 first round type of NBA kind of pick, NBA kind of talent. It hasn't gone that way, but man, did we see something out of him tonight. This was a huge win for Carolina to also get 2 games up in the ACC ledger again, because remember, they were only up 1, and had they lost this, they would have been tied with Duke, and Duke would have had the temporary head-to-head lead because they would have won it. But yeah, big-time stuff out of Carolina. They were ready to go. Awesome rivalry game, as usual.
Now, I want to ask you, let's go back to Harrison Ingram. Why do you think he was so effective? Because everybody's keying in on R.J. Davis, as you mentioned, but Harrison is not a guy you expect to explode for this amount of points, and also the hustle plays, Matt, because there were a couple times where he was diving for loose balls that led to critical threes.
No, you're right about that, and he was everywhere they needed him to be. Coming into the game, Harrison Ingram averaging 12.1 points, 8.8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and shooting 41.9% from the field. He's been a good contributor, but listen, in the moment as we reflect on what Carolina was able to do Saturday night against Duke, and you see Ingram do this, and R.J. Davis didn't have one of his best games. I was suspect as though if he could do that, he will return to that. R.J. Davis has been a first-team All-American player, but if Ingram is going to do this, and if Bacot can continue to be this consistent, and the defense can get back to its form, then yes, UNC national championship contender because of the defense. I want to be clear on something, though. Duke did go into Chapel Hill here. They averaged better than 1.1 points per possession. They actually did well for themselves on that end of the floor, but they could not contain UNC on offense, and that was a big problem in addition to Tyrese Proctor, as you said before, just 2 points. They can't have that moving forward. They need to have Proctor, who has had a really nice turnabout in his season the past 6 weeks, Chris. They can't have him get into big games in these kind of moments and be a no-show, but that's what he was on Saturday.
They can't have that, Tyrese Proctor being a no-show, and they can't have 11 turnovers, right? And UNC capitalized off that. But I want to go back to earlier in the week when they lost to Georgia Tech, UNC. Did you just see that as a blip on the radar?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we mentioned this on the podcast as well. You're going to take losses. Like, this is not some huge shock or anything like that. It's not by any means a bad mark on Carolina. It's not going to get out of ACC play in the regular season with fewer than 3 losses, in my opinion. So Georgia Tech's not heading to the tournament. Duke also got taken out there earlier this season. Now let's look at the schedule here. Home against Clemson, a Clemson team that is reeling and blew an opportunity at home against Virginia on Saturday. At Miami, not a tournament team. At Syracuse, not a tournament team. Home against Virginia Tech, not a tournament team. And then at Virginia. So the next game that is heading in, the one that would be in doubt, it doesn't even happen for another 21 days, 3 weeks from today on Saturday. So the Georgia Tech loss I was never, dispirited by it whatsoever. UNC is the best team in the ACC, and I've been saying it for a few weeks now. It's going to win the regular season in the ACC tournament, and if it can dodge any bad losses, Chris, we're looking at a UNC team that is setting itself up to potentially be a 1 seed, but a 2 seed at worst. If that comes to fruition, it wins the ACC regular season championship.
Yeah, far cry away from what they were last year. I mean, it was just a completely different team in terms of mentality. Now, I want to go to the Duke side. If you're a Duke fan, what should they be thinking after this loss? Because they played very sloppy basketball, and I know some of that is due to UNC's defensive pressure. Yeah,
now some of it is due to UNC's defensive pressure. There's no doubt about that, but they were still able to get a decent amount of scoring. It's kind of wild that I didn't think that they would sniff 80 points in Chapel Hill. So credit to that team, and some of it's the flow of the game. You get in a rivalry game like this, and sometimes you can get some weird plot twists along the way. Had Proctor been more reliable and more involved in the game from start to finish, we might have a different situation altogether. But Duke did not get out in transition. I know John Shire wanted to try and take advantage of that. It's just straight up did not happen there. So with in absence of that big picture with Duke, it's a good team. I don't think that it is a national championship contender. That's just my opinion. I've held that since the preseason. There's a difference here, Chris.
Yes.
There's a difference between being good enough to make a Final Four and win a title. I say this every year, but it means something, and coaches reinforce this all the time. Winning 6 in March and April is different than winning 4. You see the upcoming schedule for Duke here? This is laid out. This is easier than what Carolina's got in its next 5 here. So what we might have is Duke coming out of this. Frankly, it should come out of that 5-0 in its next 5. We'll see. It's got 2 roadies on the back end of that. But I think that Duke is a good team, a top 15 quality team. It just needs to be better defensively. Shire knows this. I've talked to John Shire about this earlier this season, and he's also told me that Kyle Filipowski, if Duke wants to go, or if it wants to get to where it wants to go, Kyle Filipowski has to play as a first-team All-American level kind of player. They've actually gotten some big wins absent of that, and here we had it on Saturday night. Filipowski finishes 22 points, 9 of 17 shooting, just 5 rebounds, 4 fouls, just a little bit inconsistent. It's a rivalry game. They're on the road. Like, there's no shame in losing this. If anything, I thought they composed themselves well offensively overall, but it's a tough ask. And again, Hubert Davis really getting it done in his 3rd year at UNC. Yeah, UNC getting the victory over their rivals, Duke, 93-84. He's Matt Norlander. He knows everything college basketball. And Sunday, we've got another great battle, this time in the Big Ten between Zach Edey and number 2 Purdue against Wisconsin, 6th ranked in the nation, right here on CBS, 1 Eastern, also streaming on Paramount+.